And we're live. So for some people, it's still AM. So good morning. For some, it is PM. And so good afternoon. Happy lunch. Happy Friday. It's just realized Mike Kyman, my buddy, uh, reminded me that today's Cinco de Mayo, which always reminds me that I don't really know the history behind it. And I don't know if that's important or not, but I don't know what the history is. So it has something to do with the French and Mexico or something. But, anyways, what is going on, all you amazing people out there in the Omniverse? I'm here with Miss Stephanie Brown on the OG Spotlight, which is about highlighting people that are putting in work to leave this world better than they found it. And luckily, I got to meet Miss Stephanie. What's been a year, 2 years now?
Yeah, probably going on two. Yeah.
Yeah, close to 2 years. Connected. You have spoken confidence and you have nurtured a lot of my um, positive self perception, Miss Stephanie. I don't think I've ever told you that, but you have. And I'm grateful to you for that. And that's why it's exciting for me to have you up here with us. And so, if you don't
Emotional
mind, like,
bungee jumpers, emotional bungee jumpers.
oh, that's right. So, that some people may have heard me talk about the emotional bungee jumpers, and the name Stephanie is the one that planted those words in my head. We were on a call and you said the words, and I'm like, I like that. And then it just kind of stewed and stewed and stewed, and now it's turned into this community thing. So super grateful to you for so many things, Stephanie. Um, what are the folks out there in the Omniverse? What do they need to know about you, Miss Stephanie?
What do they need to know? What do they? What would I tell them? And
Yes.
what wouldn't I tell them? Uh,
You want those?
Speaking, I have a different community. It's the non-emotional bungee jumpers. It's the people that stand on the rocks and wave at you people as you go over. See you later. What do they need to know about me? I'm a fairly studious person. I adore deep digging and research, which is what brought me to creating my company, Intelligent Construction Opportunities. I noticed a gap when I was working for some startups in construction tech, that a lot of developers, software developers, understand code and understand their world, but don't necessarily understand the context for what they code for and create these applications for. So, through fantastic relationships that I've been able to make with Jesse Hernandez and Adam Hoots and other people in the crew, I now know more, even more than I did when I started this, which is it all begins and ends with the trades. And the more that we can understand how the trades actually use and can use software is really where the rubber meets the road. And that's why Intelligent Construction Opportunities is here to bridge the gap between software development and the actual use by tradespeople, general contractors, site supervisors, on and on and on, that actually provide the inputs in these applications. And so what
Yes.
I do is I help them evaluate the software and the choices so they can have the stacks that are really going to be useful to them from one job to the next. And that can even change from job to job. So that's what I do.
That's
Is that good, Jesse? Was
there's
that
a lot, right? Like there's some really big chunky nuggets in there that I want to attack, but I want to make sure I know there's people that are listening and probably saying like, what is she talking about? How do I learn more about that? Did I get the website right here?
right? Intelops.com. Yep.
Intelops.com, folks. If you're curious while you're listening or after you get off, go check it out so you can get some more details. Because y'all already know my questions are going to be a little wild. Um, so, Stephanie, you said uh, what I heard was time savings. How accurate is that in terms of the service that you provide your clients around the research and the digging and the flipping of rocks? I think that was the words you used earlier before we went live. Um,
I turn over the rocks. I mean, it's time. It's very time consuming to sit in vendor interviews, let alone even know you're in the right vendor interview, because ultimately what you're trying to do as a project manager or an HR manager or a general contractor or your accounting department, you're trying to align your current processes with an application's workflows. And you have to make sure that those features and those workflows are somewhat aligned to how you currently run your projects. Otherwise, you're round peg, square hole.
I've lived through a few of those because I didn't have two things. I didn't have the bandwidth to really listen and ask the details. Like, sounds looks cool, give it to me.
Yeah.
And then it was square peg round hole the whole time. Not so there was a bandwidth issue. It wasn't just a bandwidth issue though. It was also like a knowledge base issue. I didn't have the knowledge base to even ask the right questions. Like I kind of knew what I wanted, and I really discovered what I didn't want after I made the purchase and investment.
Yes, and I have an IT training background, so I sold Microsoft certified courses for over 10 years, and so I had a purview into Exchange servers, into all the different kinds of, at that point before it became in the cloud, what kind of setups IT departments would have on their own premises, and I sold the training that they needed to be able to operate those servers accordingly. And then there was also the office side of things as well, which was more Excel and PowerPoint and Word and so on driven for more office workers. But that gave me insight into how siloed so many departments are in the tech they use and how they talk to each other, either using those digital softwares or just trying to get the output for that, for the reason they're using that software. So it just broadened my own scope to see the gaps. And then when I started working for startups, as I said earlier, developers often don't understand the context for what they're doing. And you, my dear, were one of the people that we started talking. You gave me the great example about your laser scanner. There was a laser scanner incident that you told me about. And again, I mean, software salesperson sells software to the GC. The GC then says, okay, guess what? Subs, you're going to be using this. Download this on your phones. And I need you to click this and do this and do that. And they're like, what?
Yes.
And I mean, so I'm here to fill the gaps. So I basically have created a 5-step process, which begins with evaluating exactly where you are today and what you're using and how you're using it, that starts to flower out that organic conversation to the next steps, which is my internal research to go after perhaps the vendors that match what you say you're looking for and the gaps that you have. And then I start pre-interviewing, and you don't get involved in any of that process until we have decided on some sort of a short list, where we then go back with the vendor together if it's an off-the-shelf solution, so that you can then decide for yourself, yep, oh, now I see how that's how that could work. Because I'm going to use your lean thing, but I basically leaned out all the other unnecessary crap that you don't need to see, that would never have fit you to begin with, based on our previous foundational conversations about what you think you need, what you currently have, and where are you trying to go with automating whatever it is you're trying to automate.
Yeah.
And I take that right through to the last step, which is I stay with you after you've chosen your software, so that that vendor doesn't give you their out of the box, here, we're going to give you 2 weeks of training, and phone this number 5 days a week between 9 and 5 if you have any problems. See you later. Thanks for signing the contract. And that's too often what happens. And
I'm laughing because I know. I've been there.
too unique. Your project to project, your crews change. So you cannot take on an app and then for one job, and even if you got it right in that one job, how do you keep it going right for the next job when your subs change and you're ostensibly what's not self-performing changes all the time ever after.
Yes, yeah, the people. And so on this people idea, based on what you're describing, it sounds like there's a pretty intimate relationship between you and the client that you're serving, because you kind of got to, I'm guessing, I'm assuming that you have to like get under the covers to see what's actually going on in order to connect them with the right thing. That, yeah.
You do, and you can only earn that over time and through conversation. You can't. I do have a questionnaire and a pretty thorough questionnaire, but I find that once you see that the formality of the relationship in most relationships, when you start coloring outside those lines, is when you're going to truly get to the meat of the matter, and the client stops maybe responding in the way they think they should because either they don't want to look stupid or ask a dumb question or go, well, actually, no, we don't have that part. And it can even stand outside of the software. I'm talking about any process or something you might be talking about that
Right.
could have perhaps put them in a better position. I'll use, for example, for digital adoption. Do you have, any of your own internal training processes or something?
Yes. So I'm going to
Stuff over time.
put this out there to the folks in the Omniverse. First of all, I got to remind you, one, show gratitude for y'all jumping on and being a part of this live and getting to meet my friend, Miss Stephanie. And we don't know that you're there unless you make a comment. I get some heat, Stephanie. Some people are like, man, I was on your show. You didn't even tell me hi. You said hi to everybody else. I'm like, I don't know that you're there unless you say hello or make a comment or do a goofy face or emoji or something. So folks out there, if you got any questions for Miss,
we're talking about a system, right? A system that you would have thought, Jesse, they would have built what you just described into the system, and yet it is not here.
Yes, so that I could see and say, hey, what's going on? I see you. Thanks for showing up. The only way we know, so that's a little bit of gap. So StreamYard people, come on, baby, step it up, please. That would be super, super appreciated. Now, so the relationship piece, and I know because you and I've spent hours in multiple calls since the time we met, and I trust you deeply. And so it seems like you have a skill of connecting and building trust with people. Is that something that you're like aware of, or is it just something that comes naturally? What's the cheat code there?
I would say it's both of those things. It comes very naturally to me because at my heart, I'm a writer. At my heart, I respond most to. I respond first emotionally to most things, and my communication skills have always been something that I've been fortunate to have. And I having been in sales, I found myself in sales in a very kind of circuitous way, really through the back door of being a library technician. And I would never have found myself in sales. And the thing about sales for me is I've always been very turned off, not by all of them, because they're not all like that, but there's certain peers in sales which unfortunately gave sales the dirty word that it's become. And I was always relationship first. As I said earlier, financially, of course, we need a financial outcome. We all need to put a roof over our heads, et cetera, et cetera. But the outcome for me is the relationship. It's knowing that the exchange of the service was more than you expected. And that is truly what excites me most about it. It's the money in the bank is essential for all of us, but the path there is deeper.
Totally. So speaking of heart, deep heart, you know this guy?
Oh, look who's there.
Look who's here.
Turner. Look. Yes, Mr. Turner and I work extremely close together. I've been working with Steve now for over a year and a half, and that started off by volunteering to work with Steve um, because of his vision. He has a vision to bring back the trades, and he's all tactic. So he and I have been working really hard at coming up and putting the application to the events that he dreamed of. As I say, he's a very tactical person, and Bring Back the Trades has been putting on events to try and bring tradespeople together to exhibit to the public and anyone else who comes what they actually do. And Steve's all about it, and pretty determined to see his vision through.
Oh yeah.
But it's not easy. I'm not going to tell you there's not bumps and follies and things we've learned that we didn't expect, and so on and so forth. But it's pretty damn. I really think it has a future. But like all things, Steve and I, we're big fans of the History Channel, and we often talk about the stories we see on there. There's nobody that got anywhere in this world without slugging it out, because when you start anything, you don't know what you don't know. And then it slaps you in the face and it goes, ha ha ha, I'm here. And you then have to pivot. So
Yes, I'm listening to a new book. Can't remember the name of it, but it's the guy that like the performance coach of Jordan and Kobe Bryant, and he asked a question like, if you could define winning in one word, how do you define winning? What does that feel like? And my word is work. Right? Like winning is work. Yes, I mean it's exciting and all of that stuff, but what people don't see, or maybe a lot of us take for granted, I know I did for a long time, is how much work it takes to win. And as you were describing what you and Steve have been going through with Bring Back the Trades, I mean, he's had his foot on the pedal for years. Y'all connected, and I see the frequency of the events that y'all are doing more, the marketing of the events, the people that are getting engaged, the entities that are coming in to support and partner up. Like that doesn't just happen because of a real cute post.
sir, no, sir. And social media is very, I don't know, it can be very misleading. It's very perceptive, and it depends, how you perceive things. And just because you get a thumbs up, it doesn't mean enough, unfortunately. You can get lots of them, and you can sort of float on that bubble for a minute, but it really doesn't have any sort of reality, I think, is the truth. It very rarely does it mean a reality.
Yeah,
um,
it's the substance.
we all know that. It's a tool we've been given in place of how sales used to happen, but it's just a way to hang your banner out there. And the uniqueness in the authentic, honest way that you can do that is what wins your very select group of people that get you and your message.
Yes.
But that's all it is. It's a message. And then to your point about the work, then you just gotta shut it off and go back and do the real work.
The real work, for real. Well, speaking of real work, Steve Turner says it happens because of your hard work, Miss Stephanie.
Well, you know what I love doing with Steve, where I shine with him, is actually it's the relationship making. I'm making relationships just all day long, and you don't know where that's going to lead, but you can't do it unless you're working to do that. But that's true of any business. It doesn't matter your own 4 a.m. meetings that you have. I mean, you you have, well, it's a Bible thing, but you sow what you reap, right? I mean, you have to water that garden, and if you don't water that relationship garden, you got no garden.
No,
Period.
100%. Yeah, that's a little scary, And rightfully so, right? Like you gotta put in the work. You gotta cultivate. You gotta nurture. This is something I learned recently. When I say recent, I'm thinking like over my lifetime. Is it is so damn difficult to cultivate and nurture relationships if they started with me pretending to be something or somebody else. So
Yeah.
back to the authenticity thing, like the way I show is one thing you and I've talked about a bunch, that I just kind of running wild and doing my thing because that's my energy. This is how I speak. This is how I communicate. When I send emails to the awesome leaders that I'm supporting out there in the market, they're Jesse style emails because when I tried to be more polished, let's call it that, not to say that I'm not, but more polished. It took so much energy for me to try to maintain the relationship with the people that behavior or image attracted, as opposed to just being like rolling and being respectful and also being true to who I am and what I believe and feel. That's very easy to maintain those relationships.
Well, I
You,
think it comes down to a confidence factor. I think this is where this expression imposter syndrome started from. I think, and I've had to I constantly reteach myself, Stephanie, you already have the package that you can present with. You have to have confidence in that package that you already have. You are never going to show up like anyone else because there isn't another you. And yes, it's flawed. And yes, there's things you don't like about how you show up and your appearance or whatever my list is. But ultimately, the ironic thing in that is that's what people are drawn to. That's the funny thing about it, because we all know inside of ourselves how imperfect we all are, and yet social media, lots of other things drive the belief that somehow others are perfect and we are the imperfect.
yes, highlight reel. Everybody's showing a highlight reel, and they're not showing the work. Right? The work is not fun. The non-returned calls or the ghosted clients, like or the call that I had that just bombed. I totally bombed it. Nobody sees that. Everybody sees the pictures of people smiling and everybody's happy. Um, but there's a lot behind it, and it's the human element that
And
that
it's
I think we ignore.
accepting, Jesse, that, I mean, so what? I made a mistake. So what?
Yeah.
So what? I mean, my mistake today will be your mistake 3 weeks from now. Uh,
Yes.
and no, nobody gets a pass in this world. Nobody gets a. I'm going to tell a personal story now. I've got. She loved this. I'm going to see her later. I've got a 98-year-old aunt, and all she wants to do is get out. I want out. I've had enough. I'm out. I don't. She's a Catholic though, so she's not out. But
Right.
you know, I mean, she wants out, and I'm so if we're all on that same conveyor belt at some place, and you and I talked about this in our early conversation. Who cares? I mean, do the best you can today. Try and do it with as much integrity as you can, because tomorrow's not promised. That's it.
Correct. Yes.
I
Share
mean,
your gifts and talents.
and
That's what we're here
the other
for.
thing you learn as you get wiser. I've got another expression. You have more as you get older. You have more rear view mirror and less windshield, and vice versa when you're younger, right?
Yes.
You know, when you're younger, you all you have is windshield. You don't even know there's a rear view mirror there. And then when you get older, all of a sudden it's like, whoop, that window's smaller. That mirror, oh, look, that mirror, it's getting wider by the day. Uh, you know, and that also tells us, you begin to value things. I find for myself, is my experience, in a different way. I need less. I'm even surprised that you having money means something in terms of security and for the
Yep.
basics, but the other stuff, most of it, not all of it, most of it is superfluous.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Start. I know I've been able to uncover or discover what is meaningful, what brings fulfillment, what detracts from fulfillment, and if I stay in those bounds, things are pretty awesome. Things are pretty awesome.
I mean, even when you go to your cabin and you like you know you, I mean, it's pretty simple stuff. It's like give me a fishing rod and you know
Yep.
somewhere to stick it, a body of water to put the rod in. It's like, and maybe if it rains, I'll need some shelter. And I don't know. I mean, it doesn't mean that you have to live like a, I don't know, like a troll, uh, you know, but I don't know. It's just pretty simple stuff. And I think we've really complicated things unnecessarily. And
Yes.
like I love to say about rich people, all they have is more storage than you and I. That's all. Wearing one pair of shoes today.
More storage. Yes. Well lit
Great
storage.
storage. That's really what they are, because that's where the rest of the shoes are sitting right now, and no one cares. And the shoes are talking to one another, going, wonder when I'm going to be worn again.
Oh man. So speaking of like complicated, I don't think it's complicated, but I think it's super interesting. Your heart around construction technology and your heart and connection to craft workers, folks in the trades. What's the connection for you, Stephanie, between the business and the way you serve your clients and the bring back the trades and trade craft workers in general?
I'll tell you why. Because any tradesperson worth his salt, no matter what he can do things that I think are magical. They can take a piece of physical whatever, wire, rod, wood, a broken lamp, whatever, and they can fix it. And they don't have a plan. They can't tell you how they do it. They just somehow intuitively understand, oh, if that's that, then that must be okay, then that okay. However it is. And there's nothing I respect more than an individual who can just do that. I'm not going to say this because he just came on, but I was in New Hampshire last month for the Seacoast event, and Steve just redid his laundry room for his lovely wife Sherry. I mean, he did everything from top to bottom. I mean, this is a guy who's an automotive upholsterer who does beautiful work with his hands for vintage cars and restoring the interiors of vintage cars. And yet, because he has that intuitive ability, he can rip and strip a laundry room, install windows, put dado on the walls, paint it, plumb it out, flush it out, do all the things that would be needed in a laundry. How do you do that? How do you do that?
Just do it.
You're a tradesperson, so that's my roundabout way of answering why I respect tradespeople. They have this kind of it, it's to me it's the same value and level of value of knowledge that anybody that's got a PhD has. They just acquired that knowledge in a different way, and it's so less theoretical, because even PhDs, no matter how they end up applying what they do as a PhD, they still have to navigate the practicalities of the world. And tradespeople, by their trade, just do that every day. Just every day, like breathing. Every day. Car breaks down on the way to the job. Well, they know what they need to do to fix the car to get to the job. Certain people can't drive their car to the job and have to take a bicycle.
Take the bike.
Take a bicycle. He has to get to the job. Well, what's the next best wheels that I can use that the law is going to allow me? Oh, look, a bicycle. You know,
Yes.
at the end of the day, that's why I did tradespeople. And to me, tradespeople, you can't look out your window or be in a building and not realize this took a whole bunch of that for me to be sitting where I'm sitting right now.
Yes.
Or manufacturing. How are we looking at each other through it? Or there's a billion things just around me, and my 6 feet, you know,
Yep.
that I'm speaking in, and what didn't get touched by manufacturing? What didn't get touched by construction?
Right. Yep. No, it's thank you. I'm like all pumped up now. And folks out there, all the trade professionals, y'all need to replay this because it's true, right? Like that is a truth. There's I've discovered this also recently. Um, some of the skills that I learned and developed working with my hands on the tools and in construction as a trades worker, I don't work with my hands necessarily like I used to, but the thinking, and I can't put my finger on what the thinking is absolutely applicable or what I've depended on to build my business. And like what exactly that is, like, I wasn't figuring 45-degree offsets and cutting cast iron, but figuring out, okay, this is what I got. That's where I want to go. Well, let me see what I can do with what I got to get there. I mean, that's the easiest way I can describe it. Um, my point being is I feel like craft work people that are in the trades, craft workers that spend most of their days manipulating the world around them with their hands and their knowledge have a high aptitude for entrepreneurship.
Very well put. Yes.
Is that but I don't know that anybody's talking about that. Like I think I just like tripped over it.
Yes, but I also think that entrepreneurs are special in themselves. Uh, they're not they're not afraid of risk, and what I mean by that, that to be an entrepreneur is daunting and scary in the sense that you're walking almost always into the unknown, and so you can't be afraid of having to feel your way in the dark or be worrying about what's around the corner before you get to that corner. And not all people are cut out for that, whether they're in the trades or
Truth.
they go to business school. It's certainly it is. I think personally, your passion to change something has to override all of that. That's why so
Mm.
many entrepreneurs will go, "Oh, okay, well, I didn't think of that. Let's try that. Oh, I didn't think of that. Let's try that." That's because they're trying to get to the outcome, and the outcome matters more. So
Oh, that's beautifully said.
that twists a little bit what you're saying. But I would say that again, in a tradesperson's environment, they are constantly adapting to change. So perhaps that is true. Perhaps, and that's also something that society doesn't. I, I'm so tired of the old models of everything. Not to say we have to blow them all up. I think we have to pivot from them. But how how dumb is it that our message to tradespeople is you can't adopt your skill right now into being a project manager, into being your own general contractor, into whatever you want, but we don't necessarily neither message those things well enough or aid that ability to follow those paths. And that's another thing that bring back the trades is trying to bring about it. It's not about whether you take a 2 year skilled trades programs or decide to go to a 4 year university program and become some sort of a construction manager engineer. It's the options. It's just
Yes.
here's the starting place for you, and once you gain that body of knowledge, you then have the ability to leverage that to another body of knowledge. That's all we're doing to the end of our lives to get to my aunt stage, and you're like, okay, I'm out.
Done. Time to go.
I ran my antiques. I'm out. Get my card. And then my cousin sent me the funniest joke yesterday. It was a comic of God behind a computer, and he's turning the dials on the computer, and it shows a man with a piano falling on his head, in
Yeah.
the, and God's directing the dials. So it's like, who knows, you know?
Yes.
That's, but
Yes.
to me, they're that's one of the reasons I called my company Intelligent Construction Opportunities, because that's all it is an opportunity. It's an opportunity. Do you want to automate something? I don't know. Does it make sense to automate it? Well, let's look. Let's see.
Yes. So, in terms of like this entrepreneurial ideas and doing something, even though you can't see what's around the corner, um, I want to like your newsletter. You've got a newsletter that goes out with some frequency,
Hmm.
and the cover, like the imagery of the newsletter, knocks my socks off, Stephanie. So, how did you make like get to where you're at with the covers and the purpose of the newsletter?
Because I'm developing superheroes for construction.
Oh, I love that. Okay, I get it. I smell what you're cooking.
That's why.
Oh, okay. Now I can totally see it. I don't know how I missed it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because
Yeah.
it totally has that comic book superhero feel. And I
Because
couldn't put it
because
together.
there are superheroes, but the thing is, you talked about Deadpool earlier, and I mean, any of these, I mean, the Hollywood's, had a massive meal of comics for the longest time, and I think sometimes most people look at that and Star Wars and whatever is mythology, um, and yet it somehow appeals to people. And I feel that construction people are are a segment of superheroes.
Wow.
They do things. I mean, there was a great book written by, well, he's Canadian now, but he wasn't Canadian born. But anyway, Michael Ondaatje, he wrote a great book called In the Skin of the Lion. And it talks about the beginning of the buildings of Toronto, which is where I am from, and one bridge in particular that is, everybody in Toronto knows the bridge, and he writes about that bridge being built during the time that it was built and all the people that fell to their deaths
Oh my
as
God.
they built it. And it was just, and the tannery that was just down, down the couple of blocks from where the bridge was being built, and the people that suffered miserable lives working in the tannery. And he really takes the context of all that I think we take for granted all the time of what stood before us to get to where we are. And
Yes.
as we know, every day, almost every day, there's a report that somebody lost their life in
Yes.
construction, in an accident, let alone by suicide. And the ironic thing about that bridge is only probably less than 10 years ago, the city of Toronto put up rails so that people could not commit suicide on that bridge anymore. So there are people that lost their lives building it, and yet now we're trying to prevent other people from jumping off the bridge.
Wow.
Um, but that's the world, right? And again, that's one of the reasons that we have to show respect as much as we talk about respect. Um, you know,
Yes, yes. I'm gonna cut that for sure as a clip. There are a lot of people out there talking about respect for people, and are you showing it? Rather, how are you showing it? Because saying the words is not showing it.
yeah. So I mean, there's all these things, and we're all flawed, and I have good days and I have bad days, and sometimes I don't feel like respecting anybody and just shut up.
That's truth. Yes,
Truth, right? And
yes.
but at least be aware of it. At least be aware of it, and not like get your knickers in a knot like it's the end of the world and whatever. I mean, again, we're all on that conveyor belt of life, and God's looking at you through that computer or whoever you believe is controlling all these things, and the piano that's going to fall on your head's coming for you. You just don't know when.
It's on its way. Oh my goodness, I love that. So, Miss Stephanie, what are some OGs? Which OGs would you like to shout out?
um, okay, define OG for me.
I like that. Yes, because this is Jesse language, and it makes perfect sense to me. So, a little background on the OG. So, back in the day, like in the '90s, I was in high school, and that's when like gang culture blew up in San Antonio. I don't know if you remember the movie Colors.
Vaguely.
So there's movie colors, cops, and like gangs in LA. Anyways, OGs are like the original gangsters. And so in the neighborhood that I grew up in, they were all the older gentlemen, we'll say, using the word nice loosely, and they set the tone for the expectation of behavior, what was acceptable, what was punishable, etc. And I emulated their behavior, and so it had a negative context, right? Because these folks weren't necessarily contributing to the betterment of the community, but they were influencing the hell out of everybody, namely me. And so today it's just a spin on it in terms of recognizing people that are influencing to leave the world better than we found it. So OG, that's what OG is in Jesse Land. Is that helpful?
Okay, good, very good. Okay, well, I mean, I guess there's a bunch of them on different levels. I would certainly say Steve Turner is an OG. I would say you, in your own way, are an OG. I would say Adam is an OG in his own way. Jen is an OG in her own way. My aunt is an OG in her own
Yes.
way, right?
Yes.
My cousin is an OG in her own way because, no matter how stressful her life gets, she continually keeps giving and giving and giving and sharing and helping and whatever. Um, I think OGs are people we don't even know. Um, I guess if you're doing a little every day that's outside of yourself, you're an OG. And it doesn't have to be in one particular area or another. I don't know. And I guess honestly, in a way, you have to wake up every day and be your own OG.
Yes, ma'am. Man, mic drop. So what did I fail to ask, Miss Stephanie?
I don't think you failed to ask anything. You know me. You and I could babble on for hours.
Yeah, we can.
Uh,
Good hours for sure.
yeah. No, I think, I thank you for having me on your show. I have a question for you. How do you define depth builder?
Oh my goodness, cheater. I wasn't ready for that one, Stephanie. So depth builder is around when thinking of depth, I think of, and this is where I come from, right? Like deep communication, deep trust, deep vulnerability. Um, what I want to do when I serve people is cause a mind shift. In order to cause that shift in somebody's thinking, I've got to have deep connection. And then what I think I've seen in some of the people that were brave enough to spend time with me is it triggers this thing of them exploring different depths within themselves and within their thinking and how they show up, how they interact with people, etc. So all of that is wrapped in the depth builder name, if you will.
Hmm. And where do you hope to get with this? Where do you see this idea? Uh, I'll say 5 years.
Oh, Stephanie, it's time to go. No, you know, okay. So 5 years. I'm going to answer this two ways because that 5 year question, 18 months ago, I had no idea I'd be here now. And what I mean by here, I mean serving the amazing, super capable people that I'm serving, the relationships with like OGs that people that inspire me and help me thrive in my current situation. So 18 months ago, I had no idea that I would be there in these conditions. So 5 years from now, I feel like I'm going to say what my guess is, and I'm also going to say that it's probably small. My guess is going to be smaller than what it will actually be, based on what I've experienced thus far. And so, there's the in 5 years, what I see is a wave of people having contributed in some degree to a wave of people that embrace authenticity, that walk with fierce courage in their vulnerability in service to others. In terms of numbers, like if we want to, again, I think this is just thinking small, but rather, I think it's going to be bigger just based on what I've experienced so far. But I feel like that is going to grow exponentially. And so in 5 years, national will be easy. International would be not a far-fetched idea. And so around that, I guess the underlying thing is healing. There'd be some healing, a wave of healing that I've contributed to in a significant way.
That's well put. That's well put. That's a nice outcome.
Yeah. So, we'll see. Plus, movies and all those other things are part of the deal, but
Sure.
that's the small stuff. my Netflix special,
No. And then there's the piano.
And then the piano. Oh, Stephanie, darn it. You caught me off guard with those questions, and I'm grateful for them. Those are good damn questions.
So what I want to leave behind today is just people knowing that I'm here to help to make your technology need and want easier for you to be able to take on and use and apply where it's going to make your life and your job easier, better, whatever it is that's going to enrich your experience as a construction professional. And that's, from IntelOps perspective. And I'm just looking for, nice people to work with that really want to figure it out, and we'll do it together. And however we get there is guided by that almighty idea of a relationship. And you have to have it. You have to have it to make any of this happen. So I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to be on the OG Spotlight.
OG Spotlight for life. Awesome. Well, Miss Stephanie, thank you. You already know we have a follow-up call at some point in the future to commiserate and vent and hide my disrespectful thoughts about things. But thank you again.
Call our dissing session.
There we go. Yes, that's what we need. All right, folks, you already know intelops.com. There's a newsletter. Sign up for the newsletter, if anything, just to see the super cool superhero covers. There's valuable, useful information. And when you find yourself in need of guidance and support and some bandwidth, Miss Stephanie can help you with that.
Make sure that link is in your next newsletter.
Boom. Yes, ma'am, I will. All right, y'all. We'll see y'all next time.
Thank you.
Peace.